You said you hope Brandon stays. I hope Brandon stays. Every reporter all week long has sort of hemmed and hawed but guessed that Brandon will probably stay. Yet the buzz of the day sort of makes it feel like people are now expecting at least something large to happen. This is an up-to-the-minute question. Right now, do you feel like something big is about to happen for the 49ers or not?
I do. I absolutely do. I just think they're at a crossroads. I think they're at an impasse. I don't think they want to pay this receiver $30 million, and it's a deep receiver draft, and I think that they want, the talk is that they're shopping him, but they have an enormously high price. And I understand that because he's an enormously great player. But I just think that their cap situation is, there's other receivers that if they wanted to align the contract with Devontae Smith, they could have gotten it done by now. And I just think that they're at an impasse. I think they respect Brandon. I think they like Brandon. I think Brandon respects them and likes them. But I think that they're looking at a team that needs to build a wall in front of Brock Purdy. They need to get a number one type player in their secondary, a true alpha corner or alpha safety or both. And they still need to replenish their defensive line. They have some needs here. And it's a deep receiver draft with some guys with some polish. And you also have guys like Tyler Boyd sitting out there that you could sign. Tyler Boyd is no slouch. I mean, the Niners couldn't cover him when the Bengals rolled in earlier this year. So I think they love Ayuk, but I think that they have a high price tag for him, and I think there's enough desperate teams. Trent Baalke's fired at the end of the year if Jacksonville doesn't make the playoffs. He's terrible at picking receivers. He drafted A.J. Jenkins. You think he wants to roll the dice on a receiver? He's a survivor in this league. To me, he's going to prioritize his job security over what's best for the Jags. I think Jacksonville will be ready to move. I think Ballard and Lynch have gotten together. I think Ballard is desperate for a receiver for his young quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I think could show some desperation. And then you got to remember Adam Peters is sitting there, and I think Peters, from what I've been told, guys, Bob Myers went there to rapidly get them from where they're playing now into a new stadium. And that's going to up the value of that franchise. So they're on no 5-year plan. They're in a rush. And I think Ayuk, to the Commanders also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you mentioned Indy. They're at 15. Jacksonville's at 17. And the Commanders with those 2 top of the second round picks. That'd be interesting if the Niners could somehow keep their first round pick and maybe pick up both those seconds or do a second round swap of some sort. What about Buffalo, a team in desperate need of a receiver sitting at 28th in the first round? Would you think they might be a candidate for Ayuk in a trade?
No question. The only question is, does Lynch and Shanahan put Buffalo in that category with Kansas City? It's like Kansas City, I'm sure, would love to have Ayuk. Do you want to move him there? I mean, that's like Charles Haley did the Cowboys. I don't know if you want to relive that. And Buffalo's right in that window as well. So, and then also Buffalo's got the 28th pick in round 1. Isn't Ayuk worth more than the 28th pick? So I don't know what the ask would be from the Niners. The Jacksonville one makes sense to me because I think you could get Walker Little, who's a Stanford guy, who's their backup left tackle, who can play left tackle and right tackle. He's only 25 or 26. He was a relatively high pick. He was a blue-chip prospect at Stanford. I think it's reasonable to think that Lynch may like him. If you could somehow get Jacksonville's pick and Walker Little and maybe a day 3 pick, maybe the Niners would pull the trigger on that. It would give them some protection this year with a swing tackle for McKivitz or maybe it would make McKivitz the swing tackle and Little would play right tackle. But I could definitely see that being a marriage because Little's got talent and he's sitting number 2 on Jacksonville's depth chart.
Larry, it's obvious in listening to you every year that you love young people. This is very obvious. And I'm not saying that I don't. I dig the draft, but I'm having a problem with it this year. And this is my question. The fact that the Niners are in such a window, just nose hairs away from winning the Super Bowl, followed by being the favorite again this year, In your opinion, how does that affect the way they behave tonight?
I think if they go for if they trade up for a lineman, I mean, if they trade up, it's got to be for somebody that's going to play. You know what I mean? It can't be you're trading up for a tackle that's going to sit the bench for a year. You have to believe that they're plug-and-play type players, right? So that's why I mentioned Quinyon Mitchell, because Mitchell is just, you could put him in there day one, opposite Mooney, and now you've got three corners with Lenore and Mooney and Mitchell. That would really be exciting. I just think that they can't go for anybody who's in any way a project or anybody who's going to take time. And then it also, Diana Rossini is reporting that Debo, who's been promised that he wouldn't be traded before, during, or after this draft, according to other reports over the last month or so. Now she's saying that he may get moved today in an attempt to move into the top 10. I just think that, I don't know if you saw Belichick with on the McAfee show last week, but he basically was like, hey, history shows and the stats show that drafting a quarterback or a receiver in the first round is truly a 50-50 proposition. So, man, I mean, that's what's so scary about moving Ayuk and the idea that you may try to replace him with some receiver that you draft. It's very hit and miss. And even if you hit, like the Niners hit with Jerry Rice, it didn't necessarily really show itself until that second year. So do the Niners want to waste a year, coaching up a talented young receiver? I mean, Brian Thomas is a better prospect on paper today coming out of LSU than Ayuk was coming out of ASU. At the same point, he's a better prospect, but it doesn't mean he's going to play better this year. In fact, it's very unlikely that he's going to play better this year.
Or ever.
Yeah, I mean, or ever. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, the one thing about trading known quantities for draft picks is I think in some ways you got to go 2 for 1, or you got to get, multiple picks for, you have to be multiple ones, but it's got to be multiple picks because, like, you knew DeForest Buckner was good, and you traded him for Javon Kinlaw, who you hoped would be a DeForest Buckner, and there's a miss rate to these draft choices. And we're all excited about it, the things on TV, but if you've ever done the due diligence, and I have gone back and done some of the math on the draft, most of these guys are going to bust. I mean, not most, but a big percentage of the draft choices are going to bust. The draft is about identifying false favorites. Every guy in this freaking draft is the best guy in his college team. They're all Americans. They're this, they're that. They run great. Everybody's going to be excited by who they pick. But in reality, there's a huge bust rate to this thing. So if you're trading a known, like a Buckner or an Ayuk, for an unknown, I think you got to get multiple, bites of the apple as far as that unknown. Otherwise, I think the odds are against that you're going to be able to replace a great player with another great player.
Great stuff. We're not done yet. Larry's going to